While this section is entitled Reorganizing Your Life, my use of the word reorganization is not intended to suggest that a grieving person returns to normal or that life will be the same as it was before the loss. Life will never be the same because a loss changes us. When people encourage us to get over it, I think they're somehow desperately hoping that you'll get back to the way you were before. But just as we're changed by the presence and the influence of significant people's lives, we're also changed by the fact that they're no longer present.
Over it? No, I'm not over it. I'm not sure I'll ever be over it. She changed my life and brought light into it for all these years. So just when my calm head says, maybe you're over it, my aching heart says, no, not yet. Some of the scars are well healed, but others are paper thin. And it doesn't take much for it to suddenly break out again, and I find myself missing her as if I only lost her yesterday.
The issue is not that we will never be happy again or have a good life or find peace. It's simply that we will never be the same again. No matter what, life will be different.
I have a deeper insight about life. Life is deals with you in different ways, and before I had my life extremely planned. I would be doing this and that and all that. Life came in the way, and so I have now a better and a more understanding and a more appreciation of life. The greatest gift we have given to our spouse or our partner is that we've outlived them, and they don't have to go through what we are going through now. There is always hope for a grieving person. It's what you make of what life has given to you. There is hope.
Perhaps the word reconciliation best describes the goal of the grief journey. The word means putting it to rest. But let's dig a little deeper. In the original language, the word rest does not mean relaxation. Rather, it means completion. When someone dies, we often say that they are at rest. I didn't understand the true meaning of that phrase for a long time, but it means that their life is complete. When you finally put something to rest, it means that you're finished with it, that it's complete. Some people have issues that they never put to rest. Arguments, resentments, bitterness, often over things that happened ages ago and which have affected their life for far too long. And sadly, that can also happen after a loss. But the goal of the grief journey is to come to reconciliation, to finally be able to put it to rest, to bring it to completion. That involves integrating the loss into our experience and moving forward in life without the physical presence of the person who has died.
I found it hard when people said, "You have to accept it." I couldn't accept it. I still find it difficult to accept my mother's death. But I have learned to accept myself as someone who has had a loss and who is trying desperately to get my life back on track. Maybe that is what I need to accept, that this is my life and that I'm struggling to make the most of what I have left.
I went from feeling one day very down, very depressed, and my grieving process was so I was certainly in the depths of it. And one day thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm feeling depressed too often. I'm bringing everybody down. How am I going to do this? For some reason, the next day I woke up, don't know why, but my thought pattern changed completely, that I'm still going to be depressed, but I'm going to be okay. I'm still going to have down days, but that's okay. And I could never explain what changed, why it changed, but it was my whole way of thinking that I'm still grieving, I'm still having tough times, and I'm going to continue to have tough times, but I'm going to be okay. And that was a real turning point for me, and it made me realize that I'm going to move on.
Having some fun. I mean, I think for people who are grieving, often there's a sense in which you can't, it's hard to find things that you enjoy, or feeling guilty if you enjoy things. And for me, music is the thing that makes my life have some meaning. I'm only in 2 choirs right now, but that for me was I know, but you're only 2. I have been as many as 4, but getting back into music for me was something that was so healing, because you lose yourself for that time when you're rehearsal, when you're singing. There's the power of, so finding something like that that has some healing for you, that's maybe not typical counseling or something, but something that really makes you feel good about yourself and what you can still contribute, I think is really, for me, that was a really good thing.
I like to say that even though in the midst of our grief, in the midst of our darkest, seemingly we are at this midnight hour, that knowing that the sun will rise again, it doesn't matter how bad things look. Just like every day, if once the earth doesn't end or we die, tomorrow the sun is going to rise again. The sun will rise. It will get warmer. It will get brighter.
Mm-hmm. And I believe doing it alone is near impossible. You seek out what you need in life, and processing the grief it's not a lone thing. It's about a togetherness thing.
Now you may ask, do we ever get to the place where we can put it to rest? Can we ever say that our grief journey is complete? You tell me. I think it's an ongoing journey. But I think I can give you these 12 signposts for the journey towards reconciliation. Recognizing and accepting the reality and finality of the death of the person you loved. Becoming more comfortable with the way things are, rather than trying to keep things the way they were. Becoming aware of an increasing willingness to accept the changes that have occurred in my life, and a growing desire to organize and plan for the future. Finding that your life patterns, such as eating and sleeping and concentration, are returning to those that were present prior to the death. Discovering a renewed energy for life and an increasing confidence in yourself and your abilities. Being able to think back on the relationship you lost with fond and happy memories rather than with overwhelming sadness. Adjusting to the role changes in your life that have resulted as a result of the loss. Being open to establishing and investing in healthy new relationships. Being gentle, forgiving, and understanding of yourself at sensitive times such as special days, holidays, or in those miss you moments. Becoming aware of a new sense of hope for yourself and for your life. Finding a renewed sense of meaning and purpose for life, even though you may still have many unanswered questions. Becoming increasingly able to enjoy the experiences of life that are meant to be enjoyed, and to live a full life without feelings of guilt. Sometimes we can spend so much time grieving what we've lost that we fail to make the most of what we have left. It's important to give attention to both things. Sometimes, when we realize that we're beginning to move on with life, we may feel guilty, as if the person who died is being forgotten, or if somehow your moving on is disrespectful to the memory of your loved one. But I disagree. I believe it is possibly more dishonoring and more disrespectful not to move on. I said earlier, somewhat facetiously, that when I die, I want someone to cry. And I mean that. I'd like to think that I'll be missed. But I also want them to know that I would like them to go on.
Some people never experience what I had 50 years of. And those are the people I might feel sorry for. I know that what my dad would say to me, if he were here now, he'd say, "You can do it. you can do it, and I would do it, and I'd get by. I can almost see him say that to me.
I felt like I've changed a lot since his death. I think it's definitely matured me in many different ways. Also, it's you have to be more careful with yourself. You have to be more gentle and not put too much pressure on yourself to do things that you don't really want to do but you think you should be doing, or you should just be easy on yourself and relax. I've learned that your health is fragile. You should take care of yourself, your environment. Careful with your emotions. Make sure you recognize when you're upset and deal with it. Don't try and distract yourself. And just enjoy the people around you that you have. What I've learned about life is that other people make life worth living. So you should surround yourself with people that are good to you and that you want to be good to.
No matter what, you have to go on. You don't do anybody a favor by thinking to quit, okay? Give up the whole thing. I thought for a long time, it's not fair that we both have to go through this. But then, isn't it just like the two of us? We always did things together all our lives. Now even on the end, we have this similarity. It's like he's walking beside me and hold my hand and say, sweetheart, this is our destiny. So these last few steps, again, I went before you, but I'm right here. You just follow me. So you have to come to grips with it. And also sort of like a peace and say, okay, this is your destiny. Somebody else has written the book, not you.
Thomas Gray wrote a wonderful poem that speaks to this. Perhaps you might consider if this is what your loved one might want to say to you. If I should die and leave you here a while, be not like others, soon undone, who keep long vigil by the silent dust and weep. For my sake, turn again to life and smile, nerving thy heart and hand to comfort weaker hearts than thine. Complete these dear unfinished tasks of mine, and I perchance may therein comfort thee. Yes, that's what I'd want to say to my family and my friends after I'm gone. For my sake, turn again to life. I would be disappointed if they didn't, because life is a gift, and they have my permission to make the most of it, and my blessing as they do.
My mother gave me life, and she would want me to make the most of the gift she gave me. She used to say she felt guilty, like she was holding me back. But she knew I was looking after her because I wanted to look after her. But now that she's gone, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that she would want me to go on. In fact, she would be upset with me if I didn't. I can almost hear her saying, "Go for it, girl." My mother gave me permission to go on. And so for her sake, as well as for my own, I'm going to make the most of the rest of my life.
Our final grief guideline. We must reconcile our loss by placing it in a context of meaning. Reconciliation of grief means coming to the place where we can accept life as meaningful, even in the light of loss. We don't recover from grief in this sense that loss changes us forever. But when we learn how to integrate loss into our lives and affirm that life is still meaningful, we've come the full circle in our grief journey.
The good thing is that we have control over ourselves and what we do, and the bad thing is also we have control over what we have, over certain things. It's what we make of life, what life gives us, how we pick ourselves up, which makes the big difference.
Of course, as T.S. Eliot puts it, the end of our journey will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. This applies in a special way to grief. Grief shouldn't last forever, and neither should grief support. The word reconciliation actually means putting it to rest. It's then that we're able to move on. Every destination is the gateway to another journey, and to that portal, we hope we have been able to guide you.
I would say to people, just hang in, because even though there will be times you might wonder, you will get over it. Well, let me rephrase that. You don't get over it, but you will get through it. I remember waking up one morning and thinking to myself, you know, I'm feeling better about things. Nothing magical had happened, but all of a sudden, I felt a bit more optimistic and hopeful about myself and my life.
So as one very famous writer put it, this is my last message to you. In sorrow, seek happiness.